Thought we was playing? Y'all thought this was for play, huh? Nah, this is serious business. Now, ladies and gentlemen, with no further ado,
For believers, they're spitting truth up in the stew.
Okay.
Each with different flavors, you can savor, you can chew. Talking life, love, and Christ, just to name a few. Grab a seat at the table, we got a bowl that's just for you.
Okay.
Trey, stay whipping up the work in the kitchen. And Whit, we can't keep up with the heat that she be dishing. And height, he had the sight, he was blessed with the vision. And me, I'm in the back, I'll be handling the dishes. I hope you don't mind if I speed it up. Stay at the beat as I beat it up. Serving it cold, you can heat it up. The food is good, you should eat it up. Thank the Lord for redeeming us, for the four of us teaming up. Lifestyle was dirty, he cleaned it up. Gave us a voice, now we speaking up.
told y'all. And that's light work. I had to contain him from giving y'all more. That's light work. Stay tuned.
Recording.
What's up, y'all? We back. It's the Last Supper podcast, part 3 of our month of love relationship series, the Butterfly Effect, and I call this one cruise control.
Cruise control.
Because now we're in the relationship part. I appreciate y'all coming back to the studio. It's been a while since I've seen y'all
In the same clothes.
In the same clothes.
I was like, wait, low-key, I probably should have took his jacket off or something.
Yeah.
Y'all dirty.
Shout out to Fred, FK
said
Studios,
y'all dirty.
as usual.
What up, Fred?
Fred, we're not gonna skip over you. I don't care how rush we try to be. Hopefully Instagram done unblocked this by now. If not, we still won't smoke.
If not, smoke eradicate.
Yeah. If not, please forgive us. But this is part 3, like I said, of the Butterfly Effect, called Cruise Control. We just wrapped up part 2 about the steps of intentionality on the exclusive part of a relationship. Honing in on that one person, and now we're going to talk about relationships. When you get into the game, you're in the game. What's a healthy relationship? What factors need to be in place? What's important? And we got a lot of opinions. We're going to hop in there because we've been we've been warming up.
We were actually mid-question talking about what things are permissible or acceptable or necessary in the dating portion of a relationship.
I'm going to read the question.
Read the question because
He's ready for it. Round 2.
So essentially what we're asking is, what are some traits that you want to, how do you illustrate the traits of marriage in a relationship and still keep it within the appropriate confines of a relationship?
I want you to read
like
the actual question.
Okay, I'll read the actual question. I was trying to be more clear.
Read what gave the discourse.
So, disclaimer, if you are watching this, you are coming in the middle of the discussion. So
Read the
that's
question.
why normally we have a bit of a 10-minute ramp up or so, but we just going to get right into it this week.
All right, I'm going to read what I wrote since everybody got a problem with it.
I feel like Chris and Trey gonna have a lot of this.
I'm just watching. I'm about to put my feet
And
up.
I'm
just
watching.
Okay, so the question I wrote is,
later.
the question I wrote is, how do you illustrate the traits of a marriage in a relationship without having marriage expectations mentally or emotionally? Basically, how do you show what you want a person to see in a marriage while at the same time treating it like a relationship and not having those marriage expectations? Okay,
Everybody's waiting like,
wait. So it's me?
Yeah, you pop it off.
I think
Me?
you started off.
Okay. So
Lord be willing.
here's where here's where I draw issue with that question.
Okay.
So it says, how do you illustrate the traits of marriage? My God, man.
Sorry, I was trying to scoot it back.
He said, "My God." Man.
How do you illustrate the traits of marriage in a relationship without having the expectations of marriage?
Right. Because it's a very easy mental switch to go to, like this is what you expect when you have no real legitimate reason to expect it, But at the same time, I think healthy relationships, you show who you're going to be as a husband, as a wife. It shouldn't be, I'm this person as a boyfriend, and then we get married, and now I'm acting completely different because I haven't shown you who I'm going to be as a husband.
And the flip side to that is expecting somebody to be different when y'all get married. Like the other side to that coin is when you operate in that way, my thought would be that, are you expecting something different, right? Like, so my friend was telling me how, like, one of her coworkers just recently got divorced. They got married and then got divorced. It was like less than a year and a half type span. But her husband just really felt like she would be the one to cook. Like, when they got married, she would cook, right? Like, surely when you get married. And so that's a small thing, but it's something that, like,
And she microwaved the
she
whole time.
literally wasn't
clearly
cooking.
a
TV
deal
the
breaker.
whole time. And he was like, wait, but we
TV.
married now.
And so I think a
Got
lot
them
of
hungry
people,
man's food.
yeah. So that's I
Goodness.
think that's where the question stems from. It's like a lot of
Exactly.
people getting into marriages and being like, well, this ain't what I thought. You know
Yeah.
what
So
I'm saying?
so I mean, but to that, I would just be like, what did your premarital look like?
Yeah.
Like,
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, so like, what did your premarital look like? Because I think that's a very like an easy thing. Like, oh, like I'm not gonna be cooking.
Well, that's
Yeah,
an
but
easy
these are
thing,
some
but I'm
things
just
you can-
explaining.
So
You're taken
like
care of,
to
though.
your question, I want to just get clarification on like
Okay.
your thought process when you got it. I don't want to
Okay.
assume. So when you said illustrate traits of marriage, what traits are we talking about?
And that's going to be dependent on who you're with and what they want to see, or who you are and what you want to show. Like, I could say, okay, for me, I want somebody who's nurturing. I want a wife who's nurturing, who I can come home and, like, she makes me feel at peace. I can put my head on her shoulder, just like take off the stress of the world. And like, she makes me feel, because men don't get that, right? Some women aren't naturally nurturers, you know? So that's something that I would want from my wife. If I'm in a relationship, naturally I'm going to want that as well. So I'm going to look for it. I'm going to look for those signs of she's a nurturing woman. If I don't get those signs, it's my fault if we get married and she does is nurturing. And I'm like,
She's not a nurturer.
what's
Like,
wrong
what
with you?
happened?
Right.
So I can speak to that because I got dragged last week for this week, but not you.
Oh, yes.
Everybody.
Oh, yes.
Everybody else.
Interrogation.
But you asked about the intentionality. That's where I start to show intentionality, right? So once we're together and I know your intentions and I'm not guessing what we're doing or where we're at, that's when you start to see the intentionality on my end. So maybe that's where the flip occurs, right?
Okay.
Because for me, similar to you saying with the nurturing, like, I think showing intentionality on my end is showing what I do offer in a relationship. You know what I mean? Like, I think at some point you do have an obligation to show somebody what they're getting when they get you
you
as a
should.
partner.
So like
What
the
the cooking is actually a good example for me because I've said this before. I don't cook for me.
We know you because
She has said
Period.
that. She has said that.
She has good first
I said that before.
Not a single
Not a one morsel.
Because that's the way that I show love. It's almost a love giving language for me, right? Like I always, it's a random prayer, but I literally always pray that like my husband likes to eat because I think the worst thing that I could do is like be a woman that likes to cook and then I get a husband that like
I just
don't
want to
like
eat
it.
salad every night.
Yeah, it's just like always got leftovers. So like I don't listen.
Yeah.
oatmeal and cereal.
Yeah.
That's it.
Nothing
But
more
maybe
for you
something
then.
that I do that shows intentionality in relationships. Oh, now I cook. Right now I cook all the time. Now it's like.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, oh,
cook
this is
all
what
the
I'm
time.
gonna get
You
when we
didn't
get
cook it all
married.
in the beginning. Like,
So he
yeah, all the
fed.
time.
Yeah.
Oh, you gonna eat good.
Yeah,
You
I
need to
can
get in the
trust
gym
that.
for sure.
But I'm gonna warn you right now.
It's gonna be thrown.
Yeah.
out, so. But maybe to that point, like maybe that's where the disconnect. Because I
Yeah.
think for me, that's where intentionality comes in on the part of the woman. Maybe.
Yeah, I feel like there are some things you do need to see. Like, there's some things that I would expect to see because before we even start entertaining marriage, like, I feel like there's some qualities that you naturally like. Like, I would want somebody that's honest. I would want somebody that's considerate and thoughtful. Those are things I need to see before we hit any. I don't need premarital or anything for that. These need to be obvious things to me. Outside of that, I mean, like, other stuff, I mean, I kind of get it, but I just feel like these are the things, like, what you expect out of your husband or out of your wife, you should see before you get to that point. Because otherwise, that would let me know you're not it.
Yeah,
Right from
even
the
like
jump.
loyalty is a trait like that because I
Yeah.
think I'm looking at Trey's face and I'm thinking that some traits are just personality traits. Like if you are an honest person,
Yeah.
they would see that you're an honest person.
Or
Right.
I guess kind of to my point, I'm just like, well, I don't think anybody will get in a relationship with a dishonest
with a
person.
dishonest
Right.
person.
So like when you talk about marriage traits, that's where I'm kind of like, okay, like
Yeah.
what you see in a relationship at least to me, when you talk about like portraying or illustrating marriage traits in a relationship without developing those expectations mentally, emotionally, spiritually, I think the last part is why like I was just like, oh, that's just not possible.
Yeah.
Because if with somebody who shows love through cooking and she reserves that for special people,
That's already happening.
and she's cooking for me consistently, then it's like,
Yeah, I think I'm saying that once the relationship gets to the point that we're at, we should be talking about expectations. You should have expectations.
So if the
for your partner.
Yeah, so if the question didn't have that last part on it, I'd be like, oh, okay, well then we clearly about to start talking about premarital counseling because like it's looking like we about to be married. So like kind of what I was saying was like, if you're not anywhere near marriage, or if y'all aren't talking about it, if y'all aren't actively moving towards it, then you don't need to do that, because what happens is you create a false reality and you create expectations in people's head, and then you're giving them something that they haven't really committed to. And so like off of all the other stuff, I just think like, okay, like if she's doing that and we're moving towards marriage, like, and I don't mean like conversations, I don't mean like, oh yeah, marriage seems like cool, or I want 5 kids. I'm talking like, nah, like who gonna do our premarital? Where we gonna have it at? You know, how much money are we starting to put away for the, you know, all that kind of stuff.
Who church?
So I guess,
exactly. So like,
I guess the more appropriate question for you would be, when should that?
Yeah, when is the time to start practicing how you
switch?
play?
When is it okay to allude to who you're going to be as a husband before you?
So I guess the way I look at it, is like, who I am as a man of God is who I will be as a husband. There is no separation.
Right.
Who I am as a man of God, like I'm leader, servant, you know, learning, studying the Word of God, all that kind of thing. Though that is what is going to make me a good husband. There is no man of God traits list, and there is no like separate husband traits list, if that makes sense. And so like I don't think like the two are separate. I think like the two can go hand in hand. Okay. There are practical things like spiritually there are things that like that's different, but like practically yes, like you want to be able to be a provider, you want to have a good job, you want to be actively working towards some career field, but like I'm starting like spiritually, like what you are as a man of God, who you are as a man of God, who you are as a woman of God is what will make you a good husband, a good wife. You bring those practical things in, yes, but like I'm starting there first off real.
I get you. Did you have something?
Yeah, I was actually just going to reiterate what Trey said. I'm definitely in agreement with Trey. The person that you are today, the man or woman of God that you are today, you definitely want that person to remain the same. Or as you continue to grow in Christ, you continue to get better, you evolve, you develop. And then those traits carry over into your relationship, carry over into you dating, carry over into your marriage, prayerfully, because you don't want to change. You don't want to lose your focus. You don't want to lose your focal point, because if you allow yourself to because if you're focusing on God, then your intent is always to serve. Because Jesus was a servant before he was anything else. He came here to serve. And if you're truly following him, then you're going to want to do the same thing. Now, me being candid, I was married before. And at that time when I got married, I didn't even know, like I knew who God was, but I didn't know him. There was no relationship there. So I went into a marriage not even knowing who I'm supposed to be, because I didn't have a relationship with God. And I'm not wearing a ring. That didn't work. And so the more you know who God is, I feel like the traits that you need to have, you'll begin to have, because you're looking at him and you're wanting to reflect. You're wanting to have a mirror image of who he is. And when you do that, those traits carry over. You develop more, you learn more, you're seeking God, you're loyal, you're honest. All that. You know, all those things that Trey mentioned.
So there's a slight difference that I think we're making. And I agree with both of y'all said. So let's go back to my example with the nurturing woman. I agree. Like, who you are spiritually as a man is going to be who you are as in a marriage, in a relationship, in a marriage. Like, that doesn't change, right? Those need to be solid in a relationship, in a marriage, while you're talking. Like, at any point, if those are off, then the whole thing is on a loose foundation. I'm speaking more, and I guess you can classify it as even preferences. Like, if I want a nurturing woman, just because she's a woman of God doesn't mean she's going to be a nurturing woman.
100% agree.
So when is it important to notice those things? Because if you want to sign up and say, I just want a woman of God and I'm going to trust God to give her the qualities that I need, then that's one approach. That's one approach.
So is the question, when is it okay for them to start exhibiting those type of traits?
Yeah, like when, it's
so
kind
maybe
of a
it's
modified
like this,
question.
because the person is the
question.
same. The person is the same, but the access is different. Maybe we're asking about access, right? So I'm the same person in a relationship that y'all getting right here, but the level of access is different, right? You access different levels
intimacy
of
level.
Exactly. And so maybe that's what we're saying is, at what point do you start to open up new levels of access?
Well, I think Chris kind of clarified the original question. I think Chris is more so talking about preference.
Right.
Because like you just said, if you just and I don't like this is not how I am, but like you said, you could just sign up and say, God, I just want a woman of God, send me anybody.
Yeah.
I that was not my prayer.
Not at all.
That's not it. That's not it.
specific.
That is not it. No, like
But if you want something
You gotta know.
yeah. So
No.
like I think what you're asking is more so maybe a better question would be like structure around like preference maybe.
Well, I said
Like,
marriage traits. You took it spiritual. Marriage traits can be spiritual.
Well,
and
because
preference.
like I don't know if nurturing would be a marriage trait.
It
is for me.
It
I mean,
has
It's a
absolutely
preference
is.
thing.
It
It's
absolutely
a
is.
preference
But like
thing.
preference, like that wouldn't be my first like wife trait.
It wouldn't
wouldn't have to be
I
a-
just threw it out there as an example. It's
Gotcha.
something I want my
For
wife
example,
to be.
Whit loves to cook.
Yep.
Whit also says she's very nurturing. So if she's dating someone, when she begins to show those traits, if that's something that person needs, they're going to begin to not only want it, desire it, but they're going to begin to appreciate it.
Right.
And so Whit's going to have to determine when is it time for her to turn that on. And I think that's going to be something that she's shaking her head already.
Because that's exactly what I've been saying. Everybody should nobody should be able to just access all that you are and all that you can bring. Like that just is, I think so many people get themselves into trouble and you stress yourself out because that's how you end up overcommitted too soon, right? Once you've exposed all that you have and you put all your cards on the table and like, this is exactly who I am as a wife, right? To roping me and you was cooking, right? Okay, well now you've done that and now what?
what else?
You know what I mean? I have nothing to
What
show
other
for
tricks
it.
What else you got?
I have nothing to show
What
for
other
it.
Oh,
But I think men are.
domesticate them?
But I'll be
y'all in March.
I think men are the same way. Men do this with their money, right? Men do not. They are clutched on a wallet until they decide, like, oh, this is a woman that I can see spending my life with, and then he'll start spending money, right? And then all of a sudden he's buying gifts, and then all of a sudden he's paying for dinners, right? So men hold on to different things than women do. Everybody holds on to. Most people hold on to something, and so I think for me, yeah, like you said, when you start to see, like,
Oh.
this is.
Okay.
This might be a little confusing there, you know.
Let me begin to reveal myself.
But you should. I think you should slowly. I think as the relationship progresses, so should the level of access, and access is equivalent to intimacy. That's what I think. I'm not of the camp that I'm just gonna. I'm not of two camps when it comes to Christian dating that I'm adamantly against. One of them is that there is no one person for you, that you just pick anybody as long as they're a God-fearing person and you just make it work. You're not gonna sell me on that one. And then the second one is that you should not know each other whatsoever, and there should be no intimacy established, and there should be nothing done in marriage before marriage. You can't root that anywhere in the Bible. The only thing that you can root in the Bible in that is the concept of marriage being confined to. But the way that each individual couple builds their relationship, I don't think you can tell anybody one individual way to do that, because Chris is very right. If a woman being nurturing is something that's important to him, that matters, because if she's not nurturing, she won't be when they get married. And so he will always be at a deficit. He will never have what he needs. Vice versa. If I'm with the man, y'all know I'm big on a man being a leader. If I'm with the man who I'm constantly having to lead in the dating stage, when I get married, what does my household look like? I can't expect that, once he becomes a husband, he'll become a leader. The man not a leader now.
It's very obvious.
He's not a leader at work. He's not a leader at church. He's not a leader in his family.
Oh, you missed the fire.
Oh yeah, the firefighter story. Oh yeah, it's no luck, no dice.
I just
But
said if he out there watching,
Connections.com.
That's so stupid.
And let me jump in real quick. Whitney said something about intimacy. She's referring to intimacy in the level of knowing someone.
No,
Yeah.
deeper,
Yeah.
not that physical stuff.
Yeah, not
Yeah.
the physical.
Nah.
Not
You're
that
nasty.
intimacy.
You're nasty.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't gotta be all that.
All right. So let's get to something a little easier.
Okay. We survived.
That
I'm
was
so
the-
proud.
Let's go back to the shooting shots.
Let's do shots.
That's a lot less stress.
Yeah,
I don't shoot no shots
in
per
the
Whitney. He's shooting all the shots.
Let's
I
talk
don't
about
even like
that.
basketball.
Oh,
So,
dang.
and I've been on.
I ain't never claimed to be a basketball player, baby. I don't shoot shots.
I know that.
I ain't never.
Whit say she coach.
Listen,
Don't even want to do that.
I'm team mom. I got snacks and
Got
Gatorade,
Free
water,
sons.
power bars.
And Band-Aids.
What you need on the side?
Orange slices.
Band-Aids.
Orange slices.
You
Yeah.
get stressed out on the court, you real mad. Come over, come talk
Give
to
mama
me.
a hug.
Right.
Yeah,
Mama
I'm
no
team mom.
child. Mama
Mama
But
no.
I ain't
No.
never claimed to be at the 3-point.
At the 3-point.
I'm over there with my
She
son.
ain't say 3-point line.
She's
At
at
the
3-point. Yeah.
Oh,
Right.
is it
Because
a
of her
box, a
making-
line,
It's a
or
line.
Porsche?
It's all right. It's all right.
It's like an
You know
oil.
your role. That's
I
it.
must say,
Hey,
now your role, play it well.
I'm big on it.
Stay in your lane.
Queen.
Listen, that's the only
That's
lane I
Bible.
try to stay in. It's
Stay in your
mine.
lane. That's Bible. 1 Corinthians 12.
So, how do you? No, And this next one, ooh, yeah, this is juicy.
Oh my
Yes, let's get
Oh
to
Lord.
it.
How much should your friends/family opinions play in the decision of your relationship?
I would say it depends on the friends and family.
Yep,
Yeah,
that was gonna be
it
my
depends on who
only
it is.
sentiment.
Depends.
Because you
Depends on
can't
who
trust
it is.
every friend, you can't trust every family.
Yeah.
Are they gonna be in my child's life?
Mm.
That's the question for me, because I'm not bringing my kids into a disgruntled environment. So if I know that half your family don't like me, that's just gonna be a deal breaker for me. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? If your
Oh,
family
you're talking
don't
about
like,
on
because then
their
I would be
side.
sending my kids over to that environment, right?
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in, like, listen, and I really would prefer if both of our families got along. Like,
Yeah.
not even trying to be funny.
That would
What
be
if it was
wonderful.
on some like Romeo and Juliet. My family don't like your family don't like my family, but we rock with each other like
they
harder
die?
than anybody.
They definitely
They
died.
They
definitely
But we're not
died.
talking about the end.
By poison, you know.
But it's like, I guess I'm asking, is there any thought to like, okay, let's block everybody else out and let's just have it be us? Like,
Does
I
your
want
family
that.
love you? I think if your family, if you know your family,
No, but that's
seriously.
real though.
This is if you know that your family loves you and y'all have had a strong relationship all the way up until this point, and then this person comes in and they're like,
You
listen,
shouldn't
I just
have those
really don't
problems.
think that this is a
Yeah.
good person for you, and people that you've not had conflict with before, now all of a sudden your family members are like, no, this is a terrible person.
Yeah.
You might be blinded, right? But if your mama don't like nobody you bring home,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
you know your
yeah.
mama don't like nobody.
Right.
Like, I guess
Exactly.
another thing too, if someone's telling you that, like, what are your reasons?
Yeah.
Like, you can't just say, oh, I don't like him, girl, because of this.
I just,
Like,
get a good, I just got a feeling about it.
oh, you just got a feeling. Like, did the Holy Spirit give you this feeling? You just pull it out your butt. You know, like, I need to know.
But
You
then I
even
think
know
it
the
goes-
Holy Spirit, man.
Hey, I think it goes back to what you're saying though. Like, do you trust the people around you? Like, I know the people that I have set up around me where I would even take their opinion. Like, if it's coming from you, I'm going to evaluate it because I
Definitely.
trust the people I have around me. Like, I know you're not going to even step to me if it's sideways. Like, I'm not going to get an answer from you that's like, oh, I just felt like it. That's not the person that I'll have around me. So if somebody brings something up to me, and first off, I'm a hard critic myself. So if somebody makes it through me alone, it's like my family, they know how I am. So it's like they know, like, okay, if they made it through Keys, okay, all right, she gonna be cool. You gonna be cool with us. Also, to the other side, like, it is actually a part of my little privilege that my husband's family will rock with me because I've seen that on other sides. I've been on one side where it's like the family didn't really fool with me for whatever
That's the
reason.
worst.
It sucks. And it's like, dang, I would hate to have that, to bring my kids to that. Well, I'm like, dang, like, I really hate your family. Like, and I'm like, I would hate that. And
They
I'm,
come
I'm
home like,
stuck
Grandma
with
said you ain't about nothing.
Right,
Grandma
you know?
said you.
And I'm stuck with you. Like, I would hate that. So that's actually on my prayer that my family.
I guess
that my
like
husband's
for me,
family
when I
like
initially
that.
said that, I was referring to, let's say, for example, you have family. We all have
Yeah,
family.
we all got
You have
family.
family that you're extremely close to. You have family that's just family
Right.
that you see sometimes. And so if the person is somebody that you just randomly see sometimes, and they say, "Girl, this ain't the one."
I'm definitely not gonna trust you.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
definitely have people in your circle that are there for you,
Yeah.
that in your corner, that you can trust, that are
sure.
loyal to you, that you listen to the things that they have to say. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Sorry, bro.
That you listen to. The things
Is that, hold on, real. Do you have bubble wrap in your jacket?
I was like, oh my God. But yeah, so you can trust their opinions. You can trust what they're saying
Yeah.
to you. Definitely, you don't have to take it with a grain of salt.
Okay, let me tell y'all why I asked this question because I agree.
Why'd
with
you
every-
ask this question, Chris?
I agree with everything everybody's saying, but I think there's a maybe not so experienced dynamic that maybe people can't relate to that I can. What if the people that you trust and love the most are signing off on somebody that you at one point did, but because of your intimate knowledge of them or because of what God is telling you, you know that that's not the move, and you look dumb to everybody around you that you trust and love. And then on the flip side, what if that same family doesn't like somebody that you know intimately well and you rock with personally, and it's like they just don't know them because you don't see this side? Like, where does that play into this question? Because I know I've been on both sides of those, and it's tough. It's tough to go against the people that you trust. It's tough to go against the people that you love. But I also know that God's voice has to reign true. Let my voice be truth and every other man a liar. Right. That's something that He's taught me in a very real way by going against the grain of people that I respect and love and still trust to this day. But there were just some situations where it's like, no, I know what you see and I know why you feel that way, but I gotta go this direction. And if you don't understand it and don't agree with it, then that's the L that I'm willing to take.
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No,
cut
you're
you.
good. Go ahead.
I think you said it like you hit the nail on the head. Like the Lord told you to do it. Like
That's it.
It really don't matter what anybody else think. I think, in my own personal experience, I think people become, even if they start off a little more skeptical, I think they become a lot more I guess, convinced. They become more convinced the more sure that they see me in what I'm telling them the Lord's told me to do. So in other words, like, the more you stay true and the more you stay faithful to like what you say the Lord's told you to do, then other people will be like, oh, okay, he's not just out here like
That's true.
saying stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Uh-huh.
and that really can just, again, that can really just go with anything.
Mhm.
Like when you're leading something, when you're creating something, like people may look at you on the ground level and be like, Jesus told you to start a podcast. A year later, you know, you couple 100,000 followers, sponsorships, all that kind of stuff, and they're like, I'm glad you did what the
that,
Lord
right.
told you. You know what I'm saying? It's like, dog, I remember you was, you know what I'm saying?
Talking about that.
So, like, I think, like, when you are 100% 10 toes down, know the Lord has told you to do something, and you stick to it, whether or not people see it at the beginning, middle, or end, it doesn't matter because you know where the Lord is taking you.
Right.
They'll come or they'll go. It don't really matter.
Yeah, that's kind of the point I wanted to get across because, I like I said, I agree with everything y'all are saying. I think in those situations that people may not find themselves in every day, it's really problematic to figure out like what direction to go.
100%.
And I'm the type, if you rock with me and I rock with you, we can X out the world. You know what I mean? I don't see you. It's just us.
So I guess we have to like whoever Chris brings around.
Basically.
No, you don't. You don't. And I trust y'all. I don't. It's not like I'm
That-
just ignoring y'all's opinion.
That or prepare for intervention.
Yeah, that.
I
But
don't see nothing wrong with that because I think the flip side to that is seeing women in positions where they're almost being like borderline like emotionally abused by their partner's family, right? Like and that, like that's I think people have to take into account the emotional toil that it really has on somebody else if your family is constantly disrespecting them. Because I tell you, my family doesn't disrespect me, so I can't in good faith sit here and say that I would be perfectly fine. Oh well, his family just hate me and treat me rude every Thanksgiving. Baby, we're not going over there. What are we supposed to do?
I mean,
You know what I mean? Like,
justice-
where I guess I'm asking, where does the line, like, where and whose responsibility is it to draw the line? If it's my family that's acting crazy with my boyfriend, like,
I would say it's your responsibility. You know what I'm saying? Because it's your
Yeah.
family. And to go back to what Chris said a minute ago, yeah, I'm gonna slip in my mind as I'm about to say it. If you're having a family member that just doesn't like someone for whatever reason, have a I want to have a conversation. What's the reason? And not only what's the reason, but I want you to explain to me what it is about this person that really just drives you nuts, that just grinds your gears. And also, I think a lot of times a person is not like in a relationship because of what the other person has said to their family about that person. If I'm dogging you out to my mom and my dad, whenever they see you, they're going to think negative things about you. So sometimes you have to be careful in regards to what you're telling your family, what you're telling your
100%.
friends, because you may be
100%.
pissed off at your boyfriend or girlfriend today. They apologize for whatever went on. The next day you're in love, but you spent an hour and a
family still
half.
hates them.
You spent an hour and a half talking negatively about them.
They
And
come
then,
out-
love him again.
It's okay.
Again.
he said sorry, Mama,
he said
for
so.
real.
And a lot of times, like, as humans, we blow up over the most simple things. And I think we talked about in episode 1, communication is such a key component. If I'm expecting you to do something that I've never told you about, and you're offended because I haven't done it, you're telling me, no, he don't do this for me, he don't do that for me, he doesn't do this.
Didn't say it.
I don't even know, and now you're mad and you're down talking me to your family.
Now your
friends.
family knows.
And now they're like, girl, he don't do nothing for you. You're right. I didn't know she wanted that.
What don't
Or
I
didn't know
do?
she- didn't know
What
she
am I
wanted
not
that. And it
doing?
goes the same with with men and women. I was gonna say male and female, but I know people don't like to hear the word female, even though God called women female. That bothers me. Like, I don't like female, but God says you're a female. Let me stop.
It's okay.
Let me stop.
Y'all gonna be out for March. I'm like,
We still trying to recover from domestication.
I'm like, this ain't most of the time. Just like, let it rock.
But no, that's real because I've definitely been in that situation where I was being held to a standard that was never communicated, and it's like, I don't know. Like it's really tough. But I would say if your whole family, like nobody in your family like this person, I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe
I might need to look into some things.
I mean,
We know everybody.
yeah, you pay your own bills. Yeah, you grown and all that. But I don't know.
You can't be annoying to everybody
Yeah,
now.
maybe you should consider
Yeah,
that.
like
Yeah.
if you should definitely consider that, but definitely consider the source. Just
Yeah.
like Rail said, like just how you spend intimate time with that person, and you know every argument isn't the end of the world. You know your family as well, and you know that like
do.
everybody in your family ain't in the healthiest place. Like maybe your auntie who ain't never been married, never had a great relationship. quite possibly you shouldn't go to her for relationship advice. You know what
Maybe
I'm
not.
saying? I don't
Might
know.
be a good
Maybe.
idea
I don't know your
not to,
auntie,
you know.
but, you know.
Just my thought.
Yeah.
She probably ain't the best
Yeah.
source of advice.
Your grandparents are married 50 years. Go ask them. Who
Yeah.
knows? But
So let's talk about communication styles and love languages.
it's a myth.
It's a myth, is it?
It's
No,
not
I'm
a
joking.
myth.
I'm joking.
Okay.
He's just being controversial.
Of course, that's right.
I love it.
I don't
We're
like
Mr. Green.
I don't like being labeled.
Yeah, we're about to label you.
Oh wow. Sounds like abuse to me.
Yeah.
He got the hands for it.
So, what are y'all's love languages? How do y'all like to be loved? I'll start with mine.
Giving or receiving?
Yeah,
I think it's
also-
important to talk about both. Like,
Yeah.
in what way do you love too? Like, maybe let's talk about.
I think the natural way to love is the way you like to be loved.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah,
More
it-
than likely.
Naturally.
Naturally. Now, that might need to be tailored based
Probably why
on who you're
people
trying to
be
love.
loving
Because they
wrong.
might not want to be loved.
Yeah.
Oh.
You don't think so?
I don't
That's
know.
the feedback I've
'Cause
gotten every
I've
time.
talked to people who love differently than they need to be loved, who love the way that they've been shown to love, but who need or expect something completely different from their partners. I think that's how people end up in dysfunctional
Wait,
I
relationships.
think a
Wait,
lot of
say
times
it
with love
again.
languages, like there's no open communication in a lot of things, so it's like I don't even know what you need.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like Whitney said it, I think last episode and the episode before that, if you don't know what you need, you can't express to me what you need. So then, therefore, I can't give you what you need.
Right.
Whole relationship.
But
is
are we
operating at
saying
deficit.
that, like, whatever your love language is, your natural response is not to give in that love language?
I think no, the opposite.
I
I
think
think
saying the
that's-
opposite,
it's
like it is your
natural to
natural thing to
love
give in your
in
love
the way
language.
that you want to be
Okay.
loved. Like
Okay, I
my
just wanted
top
to
two
be sure.
are quality time and physical touch.
Same.
So for if the way I
Same.
yeah. So the way I judge, at least initially, is if someone's how interested someone is are they giving me time
Yeah.
and are they touching me in an appropriate way?
Yeah.
In an appropriate way.
Appropriate. Like, I'm about to say, we did on the episode, like, don't even look my way.
Never gonna
Don't
get out
touch me.
Instagram thing,
Don't glance at me.
which hence my problem.
Don't cut eyes.
That sounded so funny.
It's my
Are they
problem.
touching
Why am I here?
The way you said
Let me actually rephrase that in a serious way before y'all take that as well.
Oh,
Let me reel that back in.
Usain Bolt taking
Ran with it.
I'm gonna text Chris. Is someone touching this?
You're out there letting people out just touch on you, Chris.
Listen, I'm
Let
telling
me
you.
rephrase that.
Please.
I have learned, even though I don't always apply, I have learned what is a healthy way of expressing interest or affection physically.
Yeah.
Before, naturally, the world teaches you to do it one way.
Yeah.
Hey,
Get it
we don't
done.
need to get into the details of that. We don't.
But A would be.
Get it done.
Exactly. But I'm like, okay, when you start living this way, you can't do that. Obviously, I'm like, God, no, that's one whole love language that I can't. I don't know how to
Done.
utilize. And what's so funny is I used to be the type I put hands all over you, like one-on-one, but I don't want to hold your hand in the mall. Like
I don't know hands in the mall.
that's
so
real, bro.
simple.
I'm gonna be real. Some men have to mature to appreciate that level of like touch and get that same feeling of like somebody who's touching you in a sexual way. Like, oh, she's holding my hand. Like feeling that togetherness that you normally feel when you're in a bed with somebody. Like that's a healthy expression of physical touch for me. So I've learned to appreciate that, and I try to exercise on that. I try to confine it to that. Try to confine it to that.
Let it be
So you have Chris
that.
walking around with somebody at the mall holding hands so he can practice.
Do it till you like
Just
it.
that.
Do
Yeah.
it till you like
like
it. Just keep passing Macy's
Do
till
it
you
till you
like it.
like it. Do it till it makes sense.
Look, do 20 laps and
Always,
exit.
y'all.
20 laps
But
and
no.
exit by the Foot Locker.
So now I'm like, no,
Workout.
that's how I would express myself now, physical touch, in a physical touch manner of love language. But I also understand that a lot of women don't like that. A lot of women, that's their personal space, it's a personal bubble. So it was very natural for me to be like, oh, maybe she doesn't like me that much because I want to hold your hand, or what I'm saying, do some type of gentle touch, and you kind of like, this is my personal thing. You're
Right.
breaking
And
my
get away
personal.
from me.
So
My bones.
so it's important. I think it's important to understand how people want to be treated. And I think what's the golden rule? Treat people the way you want to be treated. I think that's flawed.
That's not true.
Yeah.
It's
You have to
very
treat
flawed.
It's
people
just
how they want to
morally.
be
I'm like
treated.
morally,
I'm
not
like, bro,
emotionally.
why do we
Yeah.
grow up like believing that? No, if I treated
I think
you,
that's I
Because
think that's
morally
I
it's
think-
different.
I think yeah, that's what I was about to
different.
say. I think that's in regards to just showing
You don't wanna be slapped,
kindness,
don't slap
decency,
somebody.
respect.
Sure.
That
General.
Okay, well,
surface
General.
general.
Christmas.
Yeah.
You're like, okay,
Yeah, like
Ray.
it's a different concept.
I don't want to be nice.
It's like it's a different concept.
Kind.
So yeah, quality of time and physical touch and quality time, especially quality of time because, yeah, my schedule can get very booked, very busy.
Yeah.
I can very easily not have time for a lot of things. So
Yeah.
if I make time for you, that means you've jumped a lot of potential.
100%.
But it sounds like you.
Fix.
So does that mean that you are at that point stretching to make time for like that person? Like, are you saying that at that point you're like, okay, how do I rearrange my schedule to make time?
No,
and
I'm
so
I'm cutting things.
You're
I'm
sacrificing.
cutting things.
Oh, okay. 'Cause I'm like, because I was
Sacrifice.
hearing like, listen, if you can't fit in the block that I put you in,
No,
you
no,
don't
that's
love
not what I
me.
need. No, I'm gonna make time. I'm gonna be
That's
intentional on
what I meant.
making time for you. No,
No.
that'd be
Gotcha.
And I
trash.
I can relate to that because I'm the same way. Like my schedule can just be jam packed, and it'd be real easy for me. Like, yeah, I literally don't.
I legit don't have time.
I
for you.
legit,
I
like-
like you. But
Like,
Don't have time to like
your
you.
are you
face
free
is a-
Sunday at 3?
Right.
Okay,
your
see you
face
next
is a
Sunday.
feeling. See,
When can we go out again? Let me look at my
But-
calendar here.
In 3 weeks.
But like, yeah, like I think like understanding like how you need love, how you need to receive it is very important. A lot of times we get frustrated with people because we don't like or appreciate the way they're trying to show us love. Then it's like, well, wait, you don't even understand how you need it. And so to be able to even communicate it isn't even a thing because you haven't taken the time to figure out how do I best need to receive the love that'll make me feel wanted by a person. So I think that's a very good place to start because then not only can you communicate, hey, this is how I like to show love, spend love, but this is how I need you to do it specifically to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think reevaluating that periodically is very good because
Yep.
how you do it how you need it at 15 and 20 is going to be different than how you need it at like 26, 30. You know what I'm saying? How you need it. I've seen a lot of married couples talk about it, like how they express love or needed love at the beginning of their marriage is different at year 10. You know what I'm saying? So I think not just assuming, oh, I took this test or I prayed about it and thought about it and when I was 15, so this is my love language, this is what I'm sticking to. Nah, like that's not, you know what I'm saying?
I feel like they can fluctuate.
They
Yeah.
And they
maybe not-
definitely
they
evolve,
can change
yeah.
them, but definitely they just change.
They change, they really do.
As we evolve as people, as we mature, like
Yeah. It's bound
at
to
15,
change.
like I just need you to tell me. Never mind. But like when I was younger, I needed X, Y, Z. Now I'm like, nah, like
Kind of a full adult.
yeah.
And they change by
These
season
days.
too. I would even say they change by season. Like I would think that words of affirmation, for example, may not be high on somebody's love language list, but maybe he loses his job and then he need a whole hell of a lot of
Yeah,
Good.
and
a
they
lot
should
of
pick
words
me
of
up
affirmation.
short.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, they
Yeah.
need me down.
Like so they change by season too.
I agree. Words of affirmation is definitely one of mine. Words of affirmation and physical touch. And then maybe a day, let's say, if I'm married and I come home and I need that. You know what I'm saying?
Define that.
And-
I'm sorry.
You're good.
Spell that with 3 letters.
Oh my gosh. Draw a picture of that.
B, once again, put A with B.
We're never gonna get out of jail. Just to let you know right now.
Y'all follow us
You
on
know-
Facebook.
Gotta go to a new app.
Oh, we will be
You know.
putting in MySpace soon. And MySpace
to a
is
new
coming
app.
soon. But so, if I come home, and I typically that's what I want, that's what I need. And let's say it doesn't have to be every day, but let's say one day I come home and I just had a terrible day. It could be anything, maybe something happened to my family. It could be anything, and I just need some affirmations to know that I'm okay. I just need to lay my head in your lap and you tell me it's gonna be all right because you here in my corner. Those are words of affirmation. You don't have to always. Sometimes people think words of affirmation are you lifting somebody up. Sometimes just affirming that, hey, I'm here with you.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's more important than anything else in the world.
Yeah.
Knowing that someone is there for you, there with you, and in your corner, supporting you through whatever trial you're facing.
Yeah.
I actually had that situation happen. So my love languages are acts of service and words of affirmation. I hate physical touch.
Oh,
So,
It's crazy.
mind you, I know like when you get married, I mean, close me like people, whatever, you'll figure it out. But, y'all figure it out. But my best friend, her love languages were physical touch. And like, mind you, in this context, I can't do but she just liked to be hugged. I'm not a hugger.
Don't hug me.
So I'm just like, dang, so I'm doing things like acts of service. Like I'm helping you carry stuff down the stairs. I'm like, oh yeah, I know you say you got an exam or whatever. Here's some food. Like, you know, and that's not registering. So it's not to say that it's just like she didn't appreciate it, but it's like,
That's not her language.
that's not her language. So
not
I'm
how
like,
she
I'm
would
trying
receive
my
it,
best. But I'm like, girl.
That's
You
right.
know, but you know, it's important because I'm like, oh, that doesn't work. And so it's like, okay, well, dang, I guess you like hugs. I'm like, all right, there, you know. So I figured, you know, but really, if I'm being honest, it's like, it's not my natural thing. So I'm like, okay. But yeah, it's just interesting. When you love people, you do have to learn how to modify. 'Cause you'd be surprised, like, you can try your best.
I feel like if you love someone, you learn to love their love language.
Yeah.
You learn to serve them. You learn to grow and to be what they need when they need it.
Yeah.
Because you're looking to literally serve them.
You know what that's called? And I feel like it's the number one trait and evidence of true love. It's called selflessness.
So I almost would call that. So that's why I asked about love languages being different, because my top two languages to receive love in are different than the one that I give it in mostly.
Completely
Right? So
agree.
How do you split that?
so
completely agree.
so
I want to hear it.
Yeah.
So I'll start by the way that I like my top two love languages for me would be words of affirmation and physical touch, right?
Hey,
So
wait,
I'm
same
very
page.
much so. Yeah. So you know, I need to hear that you love me. Like I need
Yeah.
to hear it. Like and then
You just feel it.
Audibly.
and then I'm a very much so like rub your back, like rub your neck in the car type of girl. Like I'm just
Yeah.
very,
I
I'm
get
very
it.
like touching.
Hey, the hand on the
so
thigh while you the hand on the thigh while you driving is a thing.
That's it. You know,
I don't
so
even want to do
cute.
nothing too much. I just need to feel it.
You're like,
on
I'm
the
here.
backside of that
I'm
is I
here
don't be
next
trying to
to
drive
you.
nowhere.
As long as I send the passenger seat, you know what I'm saying?
Just ride, but I got you, babe.
Oh, y'all
I'm here.
nasty.
Hilarious, really.
Sorry,
No,
granddad.
but as far as giving love, I'm very attentive, right? And so I think y'all probably can gather that just from the way I say I ask questions. So I almost give love in acts of service first, partially because I'm not willing to let you into the physical touch portion just yet, right? So because I have
Good for
these
you.
layers of access, but even though acts of service is like my number 3 love language, it matters to me. But I'm very attentive in relationships. And so I love you by quite literally giving you what you need, right? So paying attention to what you need, asking you what you need,
I
paying
get you.
attention to
There
where
it
you're at
is.
in
I get
life.
you.
And so I love in terms of acts of service. What do you need? How can I be of service to you, right? And so if physical touch is what you need at that moment, then that's how I'm loving you at that moment.
I think that comes with maturity too.
Yeah,
Because
it
everybody
does.
is not right there.
But I'm like, but for me,
Even knowing to ask what you need. Yeah.
Yeah.
hold on to me.
I feel you. And you pretty much worded it as acts of service. And
Right.
kind of took what my thought of learning how you want to be loved and then trying to be that. And that is an act of service.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess I agree with you on that, and I do that. So, appreciate you clarifying that.
Because also in the same token, because I feel like you would like somebody that is that introspective too.
Yeah,
To
I very
inquire
much
about
so
you.
do.
So it's still kind of like you giving from what you would want to receive.
Yeah, it's my number 3. It's just not my
Okay.
number 1 or 2. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because I'm not
Yeah.
giving.
also
I
wanna
give
say-
number 2 before
Yeah.
we, like, even if I don't really like you, I typically just give. But, like, that physical touch,
It ain't for
I heard
everybody.
that.
Like,
I
yeah.
heard that.
It ain't for everybody.
I can't do it for it's a boundary for me, right? It's not even I don't even want to frame it up like it's a huge like chastity thing. Like
Yeah.
like I'm just like holier than no, I literally am not rubbing your neck because like it's not gonna be a good look for either one of us in our walk. So I mean like
Very
it's-
mature.
She just said we
it's-
will stumble.
Yeah,
That's
that's
what she
it's
said.
like-
That's
it's
the
listen-
stumbling going on.
Bruh, people need to be that honest with themselves.
and for
Yeah,
me
you do.
when I'm like I told y'all I'm very perspective in that observation stage, right? I'm always observing, and so that will cloud me, right? If I start to nurture you in that stage, I'm gonna start to do like what all women do when they start nurturing something and they get to but it's my baby.
You ain't
Like,
really seeing straight. Yeah.
you didn't mean it like that.
It's
And
not
so
that bad.
if I love you in that way, then that hinders my ability for me personally to be able to truly weigh out if you are actually who I should be. But once I weigh that out, we live, baby. Like,
Yeah.
we in there.
dig
So
it.
yeah, so that would be me.
Y'all want to get deep again?
Take us there. Come on.
Okay, let me prepare myself. Let me get my scuba gear.
I wanna go there. Take me there.
Hey.
Take me to
Place with wonders and
French
wishes.
fries, always wishes.
Wonders and wishes.
I'm
Yeah.
just gonna make that up.
It's all good, Trey. We
was
got
gonna
you
make that
mix it
up.
up.
Sorry.
You had
I
the
like
rhythm.
French fries.
You had the rhythm.
Hey, first of all, keep y'all disgusting selves. That's all look you have on
Physical
your face, Chris.
touching.
I would just let y'all have it.
Trey
I
is
just
like you heathen.
So, I'm going my deep bag here. Ooh, this is a good one.
This is a shoulder bag or a
I
duffel
like-
bag?
even deeper.
It's a luggage bag.
So we scuba dive.
bag.
That's what she's
Oh, this something you
saying.
gotta check. This check baggage. Okay.
So where is it? Where is
Hoping he
it?
flying Southwest because he get 2 for free.
Hello, listen.
Oh, here it is.
Oh Lord.
How is vulnerability fostered? Why is it important to foster vulnerability in a relationship? Yeah, and I struggle. People gonna resonate with this that know me. I struggle with either telling you everything or just talking in circles.
Yeah.
What would have happened was, but if you really consider this, but then maybe, I think I overthought it. You know what, I'm going to stop talking. She said a lot, but you didn't tell me. That's it right there.
But you know why I do that?
That's
Because the other side is, bro, I didn't need to know all that. Why did you tell me that? Or it's like, I'm just telling you, giving you pieces. I've given people pieces of me that didn't deserve it. So now I'm like, I'm trying to give the people who deserve it what they deserve, but sometimes that seeps over to people who don't. And then so since I'm conscious about it, I'm like, all right, let me not give them this.
Like,
Too much for me.
So let me find a way to get to the point. I'm not going in a circle. You know?
I think it comes with time and trust.
Yeah.
With vulnerability, because like you said, you don't want to give somebody that doesn't deserve the innermost parts of you. You don't want to give that to people.
Yeah.
And when you do, they have something that you can never get back.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll take it and run with
You
it.
don't
They'll
know
take
how
it and
they
they
gonna
can
use that
sometimes even
info.
use it to hurt you, depending on that relationship and the dynamics within it. But I think that sometimes, like I think Trey said it, those barriers or those boundaries become walls. And you have to learn to dissect it. And I think that also on the inverse of that, sometimes we're too open and we express so much and allow so much to become loose and free that we lose parts of ourselves because we're giving away so much. And that's a very, very unhealthy trait.
So I trained myself in this coming up.
Where?
No, in the
Who is your master?
24-hour fitness, right?
No, growing up, it was very natural for me to insulate everything and just keep it all in between my ears.
Yep.
Due to just experiences and things I went through, things I lived through, I learned very quickly how to put on, like how to go about my everyday life, but still be toiling or just turning things in my head that I would not let out to anybody. Like anybody, not people who deserve it, not people who didn't deserve it, to the point where it was toxic. And then I had to let go. So then when I started letting go, it was like, oh, this is free.
Yeah, it's like, oh,
Oh, and then I got to a point where I was like, whoa, like that ain't good either. So this is literally me fine tuning, and I can see like the frustrations on people's faces because they be like, just say it, and I'm like, but I don't know if I should, you know. So yeah, how do you safely and appropriately establish that vulnerability? Like, when is it good? When is it okay to let people into those dark parts of your closet? Like, because I mean, in a relationship, I feel like you got to open that closet before you get to a marriage.
you gonna open that closet.
Gotta
when you
open
married.
it.
Yeah, that's right. It's either you gonna open it or it's gonna
We
come
gonna have
out
to just
by itself.
on 3. We gonna rip the doors open. Listen, we do this before we get there.
I think that a healthy way of doing that would be for you to, and I use me and Chris as an example. One day, this was early on when me and Chris met. I called Chris. I said, "Hey, Chris, come to my house. Pull up." He came to my house. He pulled up, and we sat and had 3-4 hour conversation.
Yeah, in the lobby.
Yeah, in the lobby. We just sat down and we talked about everything. I confessed things to him. He confessed things to me, and we broke down that vulnerability, that blockade that was there in between our relationship. And now I feel like I can tell Chris anything without fear of judgment because he already knows so much about me. But that came with trust. That came with the level of respect that I had for him and knowing who he was and where he is in his life. And he also sees that same thing in me, where we're both trying to go. And when you're aligned with someone, when you know how the word says, how can two walk together except they agree? Like if you don't even agree or believe in some of the things that I believe in, if we're not trekking the same way, I can't share myself with you. Why would I want to?
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? That's me where I'm at.
The part I was going to say, what you pointed at, it has to be an equal exchange. I feel like when you're dealing with someone, you'll learn how vulnerable you should be. Not to say that you have to, like, if we go back to, like, access or, like, being restrictive to a certain degree, you can give somebody a nugget. If that person ain't trying to get to that level with you, they will not return the vulnerability.
You know what
You will be not knowing anything about them for a long time. And that usually speaks to me like, okay, maybe not. But if you want that vulnerability, and it takes work to do that because it's very uncomfortable for people to get to that level, for you to be, because for you to be vulnerable and then to be transparent, like you might be able to admit something. It's like, well, that did nothing for me, okay. But for you to say, like, I'm struggling with this, and I'm also being vulnerable to allow you to see me struggle in it.
Yeah.
And then for somebody to reciprocate that too, it's a different exchange, like what y'all had in that 3-hour conversation. That trust was built because you both exchanged equal vulnerability and equal transparency. When you don't get that from somebody else, then it's kind of like, you don't need to go there because that's not the person for you. And then if the right person will understand what you're doing. Like if my friend is like open and honest with me about something, I'm like, oh wow, I know that was hard for you. And then I'll either respect it by being like, well, I'm struggling too. Like you're not alone, like I got you. And then from there we'll have that kind of exchange. But I think that's just something you just pay attention to. If it has to be an equal exchange.
That exchange teaches you and shows you that you can rely on somebody.
Yeah.
You're giving nuggets, and then they end up giving you tenders. They're giving you more.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Tenders, because they're bigger than
Because they're bigger than that.
Eventually a whole
See
chicken.
that, you know.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Then you get wings.
With
Well, but
fries.
then some wings are smaller than tenders.
Wings
though.
from Wind Bucket.
I know we need to trust those wings.
If you give me wings from Wing Bucket, you divulging too much.
We gotta be married.
Like,
We gotta be
that's a
married.
big wing.
Whole chicken.
Those are marriage wings.
That's a big wing. I'm like,
Give me the Wingstop wings.
Yeah, so wing stop wings.
nah, maybe not that bad.
Wing Bucket put one wing in a bucket.
Yeah,
And they call it a 5-piece.
yeah, I'm telling you.
They put it in one
I don't
wing.
know if you need to
Still
trust
not
that
bigger than
chicken.
Chris Hand. Exactly. No, I think I've learned vulnerability by strengthening my relationship with God. I've learned that you can't be vulnerable with somebody you're not intimate with. And I think the level of intimacy that I've cultivated and continue to cultivate in my relationship with God has shown me two things, or it's shown me a few things, but I'll share one or two of them. It showed me one that he's never going to change and he'll never let me down, and two, he showed me that the rest of you cretins will always let me down.
Not treats.
So,
Messy
so I
suckers.
think when I kind of got to that place, what it did, all jokes aside, what it showed me was like, if I'm going to open up to somebody, there should be no expectation that they open up back. And here's why I say that. My vulnerability with you is not predicated on what I get back. My vulnerability with you is based in the fact that I'm hoping that by sharing something, whatever it is, whether it's how I feel about you, whether how you made me feel, or a past struggle or a current struggle, that one day you'll say, oh wait, Trey shared this with me, and although I didn't see it now, like that helped me when I was going through the same thing, or that encouraged me to keep going, whatever it is, like now I'm going to either reciprocate it with Trey or I'm going to reciprocate in the future. But like me opening up, me learning how to be vulnerable, me learning how to be intimate is actually helping me deepen my relationship with God, because it's me trusting him that like I'm not giving something away that's going to take away from who I am, because like I'm completely resting in who God is and who he's been to me. Now that's super spiritual, right? Practically, I'm not out here telling every woman or everybody all of my deep and darkest secrets, right? That's just not how that works, because there's also wisdom that comes with that.
Yeah.
But what it is saying is that like I'm not holding on to things that I go through, because like the word tells us like we overcome by our testimony. Revelations 12.
I think it's 3 and 12.
Yeah, somewhere in
Oh,
Revelation
By the
says
power of the testimony.
you overcome by the power of your testimony. So when you are vulnerable with somebody, you are able to say, okay, I am coming out, or I've came out, and like if you're going through this or something similar, like don't hold it in, because that's how you continue to give like power to the devil in those struggles. But also like share it, because like if I see God is good, not just to me in my situations, but God is good to you in your situations, that then broadens my view of who God is.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm glad. I agree, but I am glad that you added that practical part at the end.
yeah.
Because two parts. Something Kira said earlier too. I think what you're choosing to not be vulnerable about kind of affects your bit. Like, I feel like if it's something that maybe tarnishes my image versus something that happened to me, I may be more willing to share that or more vulnerable about something that happened to me because maybe I'm a victim or maybe it was just outside of my control.
Yeah.
But if I'm telling you something that makes me look bad because of my actions of who I was or what I used to do, I'm gonna be less likely to be vulnerable about that because then that's gonna negatively impact what you think of me. So I think people kind of choose. That's a factor that people kind of pick and choose what to reveal versus what to hold on to. And then what you said, I agree, because vulnerability, honestly, and ultimately, just helps your relationship with God. I do agree with that. I think that mindset of I'm going to be vulnerable because this may help you one day, regardless of whether you do that, give it back. I think that works better in a friendship. I think when you're in a relationship, you can still have that mindset, and it's still true. But if you are dropping nuggets, not even like you said, just not even opening the closet, but you're starting to establish that vulnerability and you're not getting it back, I think in a relationship, context of a relationship, that is somewhat of a flag.
And I think at that point, again, with wisdom, like, if we're having conversations and you're always playing it close to the vest, and it's like, oh, okay, well then, like, I'm not building a wall. I'm not like closing myself off. I'm just probably dipping because you're not there. But like, yeah, like and that's why I said I didn't want to over spiritualize it. But
Yeah.
Like, you definitely, I think we have to get to that point to where it's like, we got to stop looking for people for outcomes. We got to stop expecting people to reciprocate. Because at the end of the day, like, God's best for us is God. And even to like what you just said about like the whole image thing, I was talking to one of my friends and he was talking about like, he was kind of admitting like a past sin he had. He was like, yeah, I'm still ashamed to talk about it. And I was like, are you still struggling with it? He's like, nah. And I was like, you're probably still ashamed because a part of you still hasn't like really kind of settled that. Like, I think a lot of times that's something else. I think like when we struggle to admit these sins, I think a lot of times it's because truthfully they still have a hold on us.
And that's what I was going to say. So for me, my ability to be vulnerable, and this is new for me, new as in within the last couple of years, same like what you said, it stems from my relationship with God, right? So my intimacy with God is at a level where, I mean, there's nothing that I don't talk to God about. And so because of that, and because I know that God chose me anyway, that he loves me anyway, that he shows up anyway, that I'm worthy anyway, I don't really have any qualms about sharing who I am, what I do. That's why I kind of just like, look, this is what you're getting. Now with me, what I find is that different people need different things from me, right? Like, and so I operate in terms of, like I keep saying, access levels, right? And not necessarily like, oh, you need a green key card to get up there, but more so just like, that's not what you're looking for from me at the time. Yeah, like that's, you don't need, but I don't really struggle with being vulnerable where necessary. But I think when you can embrace the fact that you are forgiven, then you can help other people to understand that they are forgiven. And I think when you approach conversations like that,
100%.
people tell me all the time like that when they talk to me, they're like, dang, I don't even feel bad about what I'm saying. For what? You might have done something differently than I've done, but you haven't sinned worse than I've sinned. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is. I mean, it's just, but when you get to a point where you see within yourself, I heard somebody word it like this. You stop judging other people when you realize that you're still on trial in certain areas. And so that's how I go through life. I'm still on trial. You know what I'm saying? Like, honestly, but I think in terms of relationships, I personally think vulnerability is fostered through friendship. So I think when you have the ability to be almost childlike in nature with somebody, right? When you can just have fun with somebody, when you can just enjoy yourself and let your hair down and be who you are, and you don't have to put on a mask, you can just be yourself. Vulnerability comes natural. You know what I mean? I think a lot of times in relationships, people truly have to be somebody for their significant other, and that will hinder vulnerability every time. If you always have to be the strong one, then you will never be able to truly be vulnerable. If you always feel like somebody is depending on you, then you'll never be able to open up. If you always feel like, well, she needs this type of man, then I have to be this type of man, then you'll never be able to really open up. And so I think vulnerability in relationships is really rooted in friendship. Like, is there friendship there where I feel comfortable being my most authentic self? And I think that's what wraps me back around to, like, in the beginning when I said, like, I'm very observant during that stage, because I want to know the good and the bad. There's no point in me just let me see who I'm working with. You know what I mean? Like, I understand that everybody has parts of themselves that they're not proud of and things like that. But if you decide that you like somebody enough to engage in an intimate relationship or to try to build a future with that person, the least you do is give them what you are.
The
You know,
truth,
like
the whole
just
truth.
give them what you
Nothing but
are,
the
and then
least you
but
can
you
do.
almost want to do that before you get invested. I don't understand the concept of doing it the other way. I don't understand the concept of building this house with somebody. And then like, okay, now I'm gonna open the closet. I might as well just let
Yeah.
you see what's in this closet.
We don't have enough
before
square footage.
Bruh.
there. We don't have enough square footage
Yeah,
there.
so I think it's
I wanna-
rooted in friendship.
I'm going to touch on what Trey said a minute ago about sometimes people aren't vulnerable because they're still dealing with something. I think a lot of times people won't be vulnerable because they won't even be dealing with it, but they haven't forgiven themselves.
For it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
A lot of times that
Shame.
weight is on their back, it's on their shoulders, and they're walking around feeling like damnation is upon them.
Yeah.
Because they haven't given that thing up because they're holding on to it.
Yeah.
But your God has already forgiven you.
And that's 100% the truth. Because like, I think, and even like just being vulnerable with God has even changed the way I look at my own sin. It's like I used to look at it like, oh, I sinned, so like that's another inch in between me and God. The more I sin, the further me and God kind of separate. It's like, no, like I'm in God. Like there's no condemnation. I'll never be
Separate.
depart from me.
Yeah.
I'll never.
In
be.
fact, the more you come back, the closer y'all get.
Exactly.
And really what it is that I think when you get to this place of vulnerability, transparency, all those things, I think we start to understand the importance of, again, being vulnerable with one another. I think that is really what strengthens the body.
And you really start to see the true meaning of grace and love, right?
Oh my God.
Until you see the worst version of somebody, like the greatest version of somebody
You
is
don't
like, okay,
understand
this
it.
is wonderful,
Right, you gotta love the-
But the worst version is
the-
who you have
the
to live
stank
with.
version
You know what I mean?
of
Like
somebody.
you need to be able to see that person, because just as much as your purpose and your good sides are compatible with the person that God has called you to be with, or the divine partner that God has said that would be the best fit for you,
Yeah.
so will the things that y'all battle. You will be,
For sure. Yeah.
I want to use the right words here, but the things that you guys battle, you will be able to handle their load. You will be graced for their load, is what I'm
Absolutely.
saying. Like you have to be
It
able
won't be a
to,
burden.
yeah, you need to
Yeah.
know the load, because if you be like, oh, this is too much,
Then
you're not graced for that person's
Absolutely.
load. You know what I mean?
So
I think. I'm gonna go ahead and say what I want to say.
I'm
I
going
think-
to say it
I'm
anyway.
gonna say it anyway. I think that one of the beautiful things about revealing things, exposing things, being vulnerable. Like, think about a before and after picture.
Yeah.
Think about like an old rust bucket type car, like an old school 1973 like Chevy Camaro or something. It looked terrible, it's rusted up. But then after they work on it, after it's built, after it's finished, and the paint is shining, this, that, and the other, you appreciate it more.
Yeah.
But you saw what it went through. You saw where it came from.
Saw what it used to
And
look like.
You saw what it used to look
Yeah.
like. And when you can see someone where they are now, and then they can expose who they used to be, it just gives you an appreciation for, wow, like God can really change things. God can really
Yep.
change people. So I think it gives more power to your testimony.
we was going to say the same thing. I could say, at least recently, my moments of transparency and vulnerability have a lot of times been inspired by someone thinking they've outdone me in their past of like being trash or like just messing up. And it's like,
You be like,
It's a
oh,
competition.
I was like, oh, that's cute. Let me show you what it really looked like to be out here. So, and it's like giving somebody that affirmation and that freedom, like you're not only are you not struggling, but you're not the worst one in this chat. You know what
I
I'm
got a
saying?
friend that's always like, oh, I want to make a joke, but it's kind of dark. Like,
Go
and I'm
ahead.
always like,
Oh.
sis, the darkest thing that you come up with
Wow.
is not
That's
You
it.
sure you ain't gonna be
Well,
that
It's got a light.
Whatever
So
you
got,
can
got a lot of light in there.
So go back to what Chris just said about saying something in a thread and whatnot. And I remember one day me and Chris had a conversation about this. I had just went to go see Avengers Endgame. And me and Chris were on the phone talking, and we were just having a real in-depth conversation. And I remember Chris one day put something in a text thread that we're both a part of. And what he said, it shocked me, not in a sense because of what he admitted or confessed to, but the fact that he put it in there. And so I was just like, man, like that's brave. Like it shows so much transparency, just a willingness to just share, and it made me want to share. And when we were talking about that, he said that he shared that because of something I said. And
Literally.
That's how it
I'm sitting there
works.
like, really? Like
Yeah, bro.
it shocked me and it blew my mind. Like the Bible says, confess your sins to one another so that you may be healed.
Yeah.
And so in doing that, like it really helped us to just like there's a cohesiveness that we all have with one another. And I think that each of us have a different relationship with Chris. And I think that when it comes to those relationships, like it's based on just his, like he talks to each of us one-on-one and this, that, and the other. But like when you, it's just a level of depth that comes with it because Chris is so upfront. And I can really appreciate that about your level of,
I know y'all can handle it for one. And like I said, when you've been in the opposite for 25 years of your life, and then you open the closet for the first time in 25 years, and you see it fall on you.
It's like a pendulum. You swing this way, and you gotta find.
You gotta swing equally back that way, and then you're going to settle somewhere in the middle.
You'll settle somewhere.
I'll be the third one.
Okay, let's leave because believe it or not, we're over an hour now.
We are an
Y'all
hour.
like 3-hour podcasts out there? DM us if y'all like 3-hour podcasts.
Like 3-hour sessions.
We're gonna have to come back. I mean, love is something, like I said, love ain't going out of style no time soon. I mean, leave it to the kids. Who knows?
We said that about R&B.
Leave it to the kids. We might be washed.
We said that about R&B.
It's
R&B
it's gone.
It's done.
It's gone.
No, but we'll get back to love before it goes out of style again. I promise. Yeah, we left some on the table, but I think we gave people them a good series
This
for our
was a nice
first
little
series. I
piece.
think we did good, Kira. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
We appreciate
Thank you. Thank you.
But to sign off, let's wrap it up the right way. Let's leave one healthy relationship, either boundary, tip. What do you want to leave people with? One thing you want to leave people with that will help them have a healthy relationship in 2020. I'll start. I haven't thought of one, so this is not pre-prepared, but I'm gonna say healthy relationship in 2020. Be honest with who you are, with them and with yourself, and just communicate. I feel like, and this is how I'm going to model my next relationship whenever I get there. Lord, just whenever
Over
you're ready.
speak it over his
Yeah.
life.
Speak it over.
We're going to have quarterly relationship reviews.
Relationship.
This is a job. Okay, checking in.
Not that you're going to get fired, you know what I'm saying? Unless you do something crazy.
Actually,
report.
there was no improvement.
If you would just flip to page 5, subsection C.
Infraction number 32.
You'll see here in April 19th. I told you that was the last time.
And you did it
The
again.
last time.
You did it again.
On June 12th, I told you I'm not the one.
And Black History
You
Month, you didn't wear any
continuously
colors
talk to me
that
like I'm the
symbolize-
one.
I'm just confused.
Like
I'm the one. But no, I think it's something that people should do. Just like you said, people change. People change with seasons. How are we? What do you need from me? Where do you see this going? Am I fulfilling you? Are you fulfilling me? Just basically always being in tune with what's going on with the other person and being honest with what's going on with you, expectations, and not having anybody out here like what it said in the gray just guessing like what we doing. You know, that's undefined. You know what? Let me wrap it up like this: undefined relationships have no place in 2020.
If it's undefined, it's a no.
It's a no.
It's a no.
It's
You
a
just
no.
gotta be real with
Undefined
yourself.
relationships have no place
In
in
the words of
2020.
Randy from American Idol, it's gonna be a no for me.
It's gonna be no.
It's a no.
If y'all friends and acting unfriend-like in certain situations, that's an undefined
Yeah, that's
relationship.
undefined. That gets real.
Yeah,
Real
it's gonna
sticky.
get real
Let's go ahead and
great.
hash this out. What's going on?
What's going on? What are we?
You
we
doing
gonna go
this
to the
thing a lot.
library
What's
together?
going on?
We gonna go to the movie.
What's
Like,
going on? Like, you know,
what are we doing?
what's going
That's
on?
always the most frustrating thing. When it's a
Are we
friend,
together or we together?
Yeah, like
I know 8 of us going, but is this a
it
date?
seems like a real duo
Is
kind
this
of
a
thing
group
right
thing?
here.
Is this a date within a group?
Should I bring somebody?
Why didn't you bring somebody? I thought we was. We're not. Oh.
Like,
we're not.
okay, we
Oh,
defined it. We defined
oh,
it. That's
oh,
fine.
My bad.
sorry.
That's fine. That's cool.
So
I
no,
found that out at the movies.
I misunderstood.
No, so undefined relationships, get rid of those in 2020. That's my butterfly effect sign off tip.
All right. For me, I would say express what you need. A lot of relationships fail because no one wants to say what it is that they truly need. They feel as though they're being demanding. They feel as though they're being needy. And I think that some of those words get used too much. Sometimes you do need things. Sometimes you do want and deserve things within a relationship.
sometimes you should demand things.
True. Demanded.
Yeah, like respect is. You shouldn't have to demand respect, but if you have to demand respect, dip. You know what I'm saying? But be open about what it is that you need, because if you're not open about it, no one can guess for you. No one can assume what you need.
Nobody's a mind reader out here. Like,
Sometimes
no
I
one.
feel like sometimes people are like, he know what I want.
They're like, that's
No,
a
if he
negative.
Don't, he should. It's his fault.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, if I don't know,
You
there's
don't
no,
know what you want. You want me to know what you
Yeah.
want. That's the only thing you know.
like you show up at the house. Why you bring nothing to eat? I didn't know you were hungry. Like there was no way for me
But
to
I'm
know
always
that. Like
hungry at this time.
There was no
on
way for me to know
Tuesdays.
that. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm supposed to know this.
in February.
No.
It's like that. It's like that post that's like, I want my man to bring me roses, but I don't want to have to tell him I need roses, because then he's gonna bring me roses because I asked for roses. He's not gonna bring me roses.
He's not going to
because-
surprise you
so
with the
real, though.
roses.
That's what it's thought. It's like I
Like,
wanted
I
him to
wanted
think,
it.
dang, let me bring my baby some flowers.
I mean,
Thoughtfulness, though.
I'm just reiterating Instagram.
Yeah.
I'm not,
Like,
I'm not,
why did
with,
this
I'm not
happen?
attacking. What I would say in that situation like this, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, you know, babe, I like roses. There's nothing wrong with a woman telling her man she like flowers, in my opinion. There's nothing wrong with that, because if a man is not used to buying roses or flowers for a woman, but he's intentional about dating her, being with her, this, that, and the other, and maybe he wasn't taught that way.
Yeah.
Maybe he doesn't know that that's something that's needed
Yeah.
by a woman. And so if he's made aware that that's something that she needs, then he can then, therefore, provide that for her.
Because I'm going to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Straight up.
Chris, like, I need meals. I need you to finish
need
my quarterly
nurturing.
report.
That's the only thing Chris needs.
Need you to be on time.
Food?
He tell you he needs somebody to cook. Like what Chris other needs do you
Ladies,
have?
if you single, please meet Chris at the nacho cart.
There's a nacho card?
There's a nacho cart.
Didn't know.
Food and and I'll talk to you later.
I got it all. I got everything else.
For me, I'm just gonna say to pay attention and ask questions in the beginning stages, and especially when the relationship starts. So in the beginning stages, pay attention to what people are showing you, right? Like
Yeah.
you shouldn't even really have to ask questions, because what people are showing you that's
Is it?
And
that is
believe what they
That's
show
it.
you.
yeah, you have to believe what people show you. No matter how much you like somebody, no matter how much potential you see, you have to believe what you get.
Potential.
You
It be
so
there.
good, though.
It be right
That
there.
potential be real.
Listen, we all
there.
got potential.
I'm
They
about to
gonna
say.
get there, maybe not.
You
for
potentially be
solely
wasting
base
your
it
life.
on
They'll get
potential,
there.
it's potential as well.
So yeah, so that would be my, so pay attention, ask questions in the beginning, pay attention. But in the relationship, when you're talking to somebody, when you're dating somebody, be attentive, ask questions, pay attention to that person, learn your partner, study your
Yeah.
partner, figure out what your partner needs, figure out what kind of person they are, figure out where they struggle, what weaknesses they have. You can be able to pick up on these things without people telling you if you step outside of yourself and pay attention. So I think that's going to be my biggest takeaway. If you're in a relationship, learn to step outside of yourself enough to really look at the relationship, see what the relationship needs, see your partner, see what your partner needs. I think sometimes in relationships we get so interested. It's all us. Like, what am I getting? How do I feel? Where am I at? Do I still want to
Where's
be
my
here?
piece?
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like all these types of things. So to step outside of yourself, to learn to step outside of yourself, to ask questions, to be attentive. That's
That's
good.
good. Will.
Appreciate that.
Trey,
I would say, kind of like what Whitney said, be observant. Be somebody who isn't trying to just dictate what you think somebody wants. Take the time. I think you can learn a lot just by taking the time and getting to know somebody. See what they like, see how they respond in certain situations. Yep, just be very observative. Is that a word?
No,
Observant.
Observant. Observative. We're gonna try
Observant?
that.
I like observative.
We're
I
gonna
said we
try
I
keep.
like it better.
We're
though.
gonna see the
It's
sticks.
observant.
Who gonna check you, boo?
observative, no longer observant.
check me,
Okay,
boo.
I dig it.
I mean, we can't put it on Instagram.
Until March.
It's not like
At this point, probably April.
Right.
Good.
Dig it the hole deeper.
I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah,
just-
it's getting worse.
observe.
What's up? Key?
Observative.
Leave the people with one gem.
Observe.
Let's see. I think it might be a two-part. I would say be okay with accepting an actual flag. Like, if you recognize something as a flag, don't try to do the what could it be. Like, if it's a flag,
No flag though.
get up out of there.
It's so fly.
Yeah, like it's like
It's not a flag, It's a bed sheet, girl.
Let me get this back out of my
It might
eye.
not be a red flag. It might be a pink flag.
Oh, yourself.
Yeah,
It's not a flag.
that's what I was saying. A red flag. Don't try to make it a pink flag or a tainted, white flag. Make recognize that it's a flag and get up out of there.
It's red. It's
Save
saying
yourself,
stop.
sis. Save yourself, bro.
Trash
Trey
brown.
Yeah.
said dark purple.
Whatever color the flag is, that, and then I would also say, be okay with sticking to your boundaries. Like,
Yes.
your
And your
non-negotiables and your standards. Like, if you know what you want out of something, Don't fold. 'Cause that's
Don't
settling.
fold. Ooh, I've been
I like
tested.
Yeah,
Can't fold.
Don't fold.
Don't fold.
Can't
Don't
fold.
That's it.
All right.
Don't.
That's the whole tweet.
We'll be back with more love talk.
Yeah.
I know we didn't get to it all. Submit your questions, submit your topics at Last Supper TLSP podcast page on Instagram when we get
Starting
back.
February.
Starting next year.
Get back.
Oh, this episode won't come out to the 16th.
Yeah, we should be
Yeah.
free by then. We should be free.
Hopefully
February
so.
2021, you can hit us up.
2020.
Let us know by next Valentine's.
Right.
We
get
got
it
you.
covered. But yeah, we're gonna wrap this up. I think the Butterfly Effect was a success. Thank you, Kiera, for blessing the table,
Yeah, thanks for
bringing
having me.
bringing insights, bringing perspective. As always, Fred holding down the operations in the back. You know, Fred, we're gonna get you on camera one day. I know you.
One
you fighting.
day.
People don't think you exist, so we're gonna get you.
Invisible magic person.
The man.
The man, exactly. Fred. Nah.
Fred got us blocked on Instagram.
Shout out to FK and Fred for continuously hosting us and charging us what he charges us. Yeah, we love it. We love you. We'll come back.
Sincerely.
We'll be back. Appreciate you pulling up, breaking bread, getting fed. Till next time, good people. Love each other. Love yourself. God loves you.
Love the Lord.
All those feel goods.
Hallelujah.
Amen.
Amen.
All
Sign
right, to the
off.
man.
See y'all. I was about to cut the curtain.
Y'all thought we was playing? Y'all thought this was for play, huh? Nah, this is serious business. Now, ladies and gentlemen, with no further ado, for believers, they're spitting truth up in the stew. Okay. Each with different flavors, you can savor, you can chew. Talking life, love, and Christ, just to name a few. Grab a seat at the table, we got a bowl that's just for you. Okay. Trey, stay whipping up the work in the kitchen and wit. We can't keep up with the heat that she be dishing and height. He had the sight, he was blessed with the vision. And me, I'm in the back, I'll be handling the dishes. I hope you don't mind if I speed it up. Stay at the beat as I beat it up. Serving it cold, you can heat it up. The food is good, you should eat it up. Thank the Lord for redeeming us. For the four of us teaming up. Lifestyle was dirty, he cleaned it up. Gave us the voice, now we speaking up. Told y'all. And that's light work. I had to contain him from giving y'all more. That's light work. Stay tuned.